Vanakkam from Semmoli Multimedia Center of the Central Institute of Classical Tamil. Dr. Madhusudhanan Kalaichelvan discussing Ilango's Silappadhikaram, the story of Anklet, composed by Ilango Vadigal, one of the earliest operas. We've seen till the wedding of Kannagi and Kovalan and the nuptials that were celebrated with a prayer, long live the Chola king. And the next chapter, Ilango Vadigal moves into the love-laden life that Kannagi and Kovalan continued. The wealthy parents that they were had a beautiful mansion gifted for them. To begin with, the wealth of Pumbuhar city is once again described. It talks about the inexhaustible wealth with which the ancestors of both Kannagi and Kovalan have been blessed with. It talks about how the roaring ships which goes all around the earth comes in search of the port of Pumbuhar. So you can understand the kind of wealth that the city of Puhar had. So every ship wanted to dock itself there and check out on the wealth. And Ilango goes one step ahead and says, even if the entire population wants to find shelter at Pumbuhar, the wealth of Puhar was good enough to feed them all. He also goes around and compares the city of Puhar with the Uttarakuru, which is a land of bliss, a land where you see people who were laden in penance find bliss. By performing penance and deep meditation, one comes out of the circle of wealth and poverty and feels filled up with, feels completed with what they have. They are happy with what they have. That's the kind of mindset that people in penance attain. So here he says there is so much abundance, the wealth is in abundance, that people say I have enough. I'm happy with what I have. That's actually being rich. So he compares the city of Pumbuhar and the people there with a contented lifestyle with that of the people of Uttarakuru. Where is this place called Uttarakuru? Interestingly, Vedic texts talks about a land somewhere around the Trans-Himalayan plains which is filled with seers, meditating penance performers, the meditators and the rishis, which it is filled with, who are contented with the lifestyle that they lead. So the contentment there is what is wealth all about. So that's how the city of Puhar is compared with Uttarakuru. Then he goes on to talk about the mansion where Kannagi and Kovalan have been housed. For them to understand each other, they are 16 and 12, 4 years of difference, and at that age when their wedding has been pronounced and has been accepted, and they have a life which is just filled with happiness and bliss to share between each other, and they have their early moments. It's beautifully described by Ilango, dipped in Sringara Rasa. It talks about how exotic the bed chamber was. In fact, it talks about the terrace where the bed has been put up and it is just filled with flowers. It's so soft, it's in silk, and all the comfort that a youngly married need have been bestowed upon there. And there you have Kannagi and Kovalan enjoying the evening breeze of the coastal town, of the wealthy coastal town, the wealth of which was controlled by the merchants, to the family of which they both belonged. And it talks about the graceful form, the fragile form of Kannagi. It talks about Kannagi's beauty through the eyes of Kovalan. So he describes her with all best possible similes and metaphors. He asks, taking a close-up look at her forehead, he says, this perfection, the curves and the perfection of your forehead matches with that of the crescent moon. Did Shiva, exchanged it with you, or did he just lend it so that your forehead could be gifted? Because we all know that the crescent moon finds his solace by sitting amidst the hair locks of Shiva. So he's Chandra Shekhara, he has the Chandra there. And so here the poet goes a step ahead and says, was he lent only to make your forehead? Was your forehead chiseled with the perfection of the crescent moon? Then he takes a close-up look at the eyebrows. He says, did Manmata, the god of love, the bodiless god, did he lend his or gift his sugarcane with which he makes his bow? Kama, as we all know, wields a bow made of a sugarcane, and a bouquet of flowers are his arrows. So he asks, the perfection, the shape in which your eyebrows are carved, is it because Manmata lent his sugarcane bows? He also goes on and says, this youthful young god Kartikeya, Did he gift you his long lance, the spear, the Velayudam, the Shaktyayudam that he holds, the sharp tipped spear? Did he gift it to you so your eyes could be shaped out of it? Did Indra gift his Vajrayuda, the weapon that he holds, which is broad in the top and the bottom, and it is very, very narrow in its in between? So he asks, because your waist seems like have been shaped out of the Vajrayuda of Indra, did he lend it over? So he makes a long list of all the gods and says whether they gifted their weapons or ornaments to carve you out of it. This is only a direct reference to how beauty is associated with divinity. So he says, praises her beauty and says, if somebody like you have got to be carved, it can only happen through divine intervention. So that's the beauty, such is her beauty. So in all his authority, the hero there praises her beauty. He talks about her slender shoulders on which he paints and amuses himself. So he talks about every body part of hers and describes it. The fragrance of her is all described. And it is not only about praising the women there. Ilango also describes Kovalan. He talks about the fragrant jasmine garland that they were wearing, the perfumery that was playing a role there. So he describes it all and says that they exchanged such mutual appreciations. They enjoyed the company, the warmth, the fragrance there. So the comfort was all shared between the couple. Like, the intimacy of the couple there is also again prescribed in our Shastras. Our tradition, the Indian tradition, talks about Kama being the Tritiya Purushartha. We have a list of these 4 Purusharthas, the benefits of life, the aims and objectives of lives. It starts with Dharma, being righteous. Then it talks about how you make a fortune, you make a living, you make an earning, and that's where Artha comes into place. Dharma, and the second Purushartha is Artha. So you make a living, you earn what you need in a very dharmic way. So your Dharma Shastras comes in place. Then you have the Artha Shastra, again prescribed by Chanakya. So that talks about making money, your duties, your responsibilities, and how to make, how not to make. So you have that as the second Purushartha. And Indian tradition lists Kama as the third Purushartha. The pleasures of life, the bliss, is what you make out of the money that you've earned in a dharmic way. So Dharma, Artha, Kama. And when somebody leads a life based on this flow, the fourth Purushartha, the ultimate objective or goal, is moksha, to attain salvation. Salvation is the most easiest word for a translation, but yeah, moksha is your self-realization and attaining the feet of Lord. Or several traditions describes it in a different way, but the ultimate goal is moksha. So these 4 verticals, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, are also literally absorbed in the Tamil ancient traditions as Aram, Porul, Inbam, Veed. Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So we have Natya Shastras and several other works which talks about Shrinkara, and it has a grammar to Kama also. We have Kama Shastra in place. So here the poet goes on to explore these aspects too. So to understand it, I mean, human race has developed through such pleasure. So Kama was never a taboo. So when the right age is there, when the need is there, we need to be educated on it. The do's and don'ts of it has got to be described there. So it is not that, like the Westerners think, it was never a taboo for us, or it was not hidden or screened out. So when the kids are of right age, they are introduced to it, and to tell about what is right and wrong there is the need of the hour. So here we have Ilango Vadigal, who goes on in a way to also educate us and explain to us how the culture looked. We always say literature is a mirror of the period in which it was authored. So here we have a work which is at least 1300 years old or more, if not more. So this work reflects the way Kama, as one of the Purusharthas and a mandate in an ordinary person's life, in any person's life for that matter, has been understood by our ancestors. So he goes on to poetically describe the beauty of the heroine through the eyes of the hero, and vice versa too. So a well-established love-laden life by the youngly married couple is established in that part. So this is a very, very significant part there. And we are going to also switch over to the next chapter, the third chapter, where Ilango Vadigal talks about Kama becoming a trap and taking you down a not so popular way of life. So Ilango also is going to describe about that and the ill fortune that you face and how it plays a foul game over your life. That will also be described. But before that, he talks about what is accepted when it comes to karma. So, a marriage which has been appreciated, accounted by the society, which has been accepted by the society happens, and a very dharmic wedding it is. So, the couple enjoy a dharmic life where karma comes into place. So, love and pleasure is exchanged in abundance there. So, Ilangovadigal's very detailed description of the post marriage life that both had immediately after wedding, the life that the protagonists had, has been beautifully described in the second chapter. The second chapter comes to a close where, after spending enough time to get to understand each other, likes and dislikes, qualities, characters, what to accept, what not to accept. This is in fact a very beautiful transition period for both the individuals who didn't know each other till then. It is not a childhood friendship kind of a love story where they know each other as kids, they've played together, and then one fine day when they were of appropriate age, they got married. No, that's not the story here. They were from the same town, they were from the same city. Both of them were aristocratic in a way, they were both wealthy. So, good possibility that they know each other. But to enter into a married life, especially at such very early stages, immediately after attaining puberty, that was a tradition then. So, to understand bodily functions and how you exchange love and what is expected out of you, how you lay a foundation that's going to be a strong style for your life, a very, very strong foundation for your life, for the rest of your life in fact. So, that is described as the time period when they both spend together to set in. So, that is a very necessary chapter that Ilangovadigal gives us through the second chapter. So, that is a separate chapter, because you need to understand that they both loved each other, because from the next chapter there is going to be a twist and a change there. So, Kovalan is going to take he is going to take a detour. So, Ilangovadigal gives us these clues. We will have to understand that ancient Indian culture had people who could prophesize. There was a lot of thoughts on astrology, planetary movements and observation of what was happening up there gave them clues about the future. Traditions of fortune telling, traditions of such understanding good and bad omens around, understanding the nature and how you respond to it, certain signs that the nature gives. Yeah, so all that is understood, and they prophesy the future, they predict the future and tell us. Ilangovadigal should have been a master of this school of traditional astrology / astronomy, because in many places, I mean in several places in Silappadhikaram, he talks about or gives us a clue about the future. He is a Mahakavi, no doubt about it, because the choice of words are extremely appropriate. It was not random. You cannot replace an existing word with an equivalent word. You cannot play with synonyms in Mahakavyas. So, every alphabet, because you have monosyllabled words, you have a single alphabet which can probably be a word and also have a deep meaning. So, every alphabet, every word, every phrase, every line makes so much sense in it. We cannot certainly take it for granted. So, here Ilangovadigal gives us several clues about how life is going to take a change. It is at this point that Kannagi and Kovalan are given a mansion for themselves. So, the initial stage was a transition period. Probably they lived in their parents' house and on the terrace of which all of these love scenes and all that is described. Then when the responsibilities are to be taught, when they have to be given their freedom to lead a life for themselves, of course bound by dharma, to have their own personal time to raise a family technically, yeah, instead of living in the shadows of their parents, they are set a mansion for themselves. So, the extremely rich parents there, especially the mother-in-law of Kannagi, takes up that responsibility to train her daughter-in-law on the family traditions, the noble gestures that they have been following over generations, charity most importantly, feeding poor people, attending to the calls of the needy, being supportive of whatever happens around you, treating your maids and servants and assistants with respect, taking care of them, supporting the poor. So, these qualities are inbuilt, but she is still a little kid. The heroine there is 12-13 years of age. So, she need to be trained on the customs of her family, now that she is married and gotten into this family, she has got to be trained for the customs. So here you have that duty being taken up by Kovalen's mother, who steps in to support her in the early stages. So she helps her set up a nice mansion for herself, fills it up with wealth of all sorts, furniture, jewelry, crockery, grocery, whatnot, money. So everything is brought in place. Are these riches just enough to run a family? You need people to assist you. You need maids to be supportive of you. And back in those days, the merchant community especially, when the men, the male members of the family, were seafarers, traveled for long durations, months together if not weeks, and years together sometimes, and come back after they make a fortune. Yeah, those are the times when you need security, when you need a moral support. You need somebody to stand by you, to spend time with you. So that's where young of equal age women are brought in as maidens to support the heroine there. So they are the best friends. They understand her needs. They understand the mental agony that she is facing because her husband is not in town. He's gone on a seafarer. He's a seafarer. He's gone on a voyage. So these are beautiful qualities that you understand from such traditions where maidens are brought in. They stand guard and they spend their time with her. They go around on evening walks, they visit temples, they attend family functions, get together. So they stand guard of her. And then you have, in many cases, old women who are also appointed as guardians of such houses. They, out of their experience and their knowledge, can understand and differentiate between what is good and bad. So they can restrict access to such houses where the women are all by themselves. So these are beautiful traditions that they had for a very family bound, community bound family qualities, traditions. So here you have Kannagi's mother-in-law who steps in to set it up all for her. So a very wealthy mansion, a huge, larger than life needed kind of a mansion has been designed and bought in for them, and all the parts of the house, it's all decorated appropriately. You have discussions about drapery, there are talks about balconies, there are talks about pets. So all of these are generally what you see in literature. So here also it's a very wealthy mansion that Kannagi's mother-in-law helps them with and fills it up with all sorts of riches, and Kannagi and Kovalan are brought in there. But there, Ilangovadigal, as he sums the chapter up, he talks about how they were attracted towards each other as much as the grey complexioned snakes, serpents. Serpents are known for their lovemaking, so they get very close, and the intimacy is pretty much well known, but they are young and newly married. When you talk about their love for each other, there could have been better comparisons, but it is not for no reasons that Ilangovadigal brings in the serpent, even the thought of which might frighten many. For a moment we freeze when we talk about snakes. Yeah, it has this sense of bringing in something negative, something sending a chill down your spine. So unfortunately, everything has been so auspicious all along. Ilangovadigal has handpicked very beautiful words, irreplaceable words, to describe the city, the people, the wealth, the families, the individuals, the hero, heroine, and their big fat wedding. But unfortunately, as he signs up the second chapter, makes a mention of serpents to give us a clue that it is not going to be very positive moving forward. These are subtle clues that Ilangovadigal gives, and that is where the poetic beauty of Silappadhikaram comes in. So that he has brought in a couple, a pair of serpents, and telling like the intimacy that they shared were like this, there can always be a chance of one leaving the other. And that's exactly what happens starting from the next chapter. So Ilangovadigal brings it at this level in the closing verses of the second chapter. And what is to continue is what is going to be the play of fate. As I told you, Silappadhikaram believes in the concept of vidhi or fate. It talks about what you reap is dependent on what you have sown. So the concept of karma is pretty much accepted, and it runs as a thread, as a foundation all through the 30 chapters. So the second chapter comes to a close with this little surprise. Where exactly did negativity creep in? Where did vidhi play a negative role? what was this path that Kovalan lost? Reserved for the third chapter. Thank you.